This is a presentation of the Oklahoma Sports Network.
Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the Oklahoma Sports Network's consent is prohibited. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be used without express written consent.
Coming up this week, both the Eagles and Titans prepare to defend their home fields as they both face elimination in do-or-die games. That's right, it's the playoffs, and it's Week 11 of the Middale Sports Report. Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome to Week 11 of the Middale Sports Report. I'm Jordan Ray. Coming up this week, both Dec City and Carl Albert are one seeds, and they are hosting big playoff games. And we also talk wrestling with Midwest City coach Shane Kerr. So a lot to look forward to there. Once again, we start with Carl Albert.
Trey Washington and Xavier Thomas to your near side.
Kentrell Bazell's in the backfield. DeQuasy's going to take the ball. He's going to peel off over here to the right. Throw back to Bazell. Wide open. 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown. Carl Albert Titans. Xavier Robinson is doing the Trojan horse at this time. Two men, the extra heavy package to the left. Robinson's going to kind of go right up the middle. He's going to break free across the 5. Touchdown. Carl Albert.
As DeQuasy's in the pistol formation, two wide receivers to the top of your screen. Twin tight end set. He's going to flip it back out to Thomas, who's actually going to break another
He's
tackle.
going to take it all the way in. There's nothing stopping that. Touchdown, Carl Albert Titans. And that's the final play of the game. And Carl Albert Titans are undefeated in 5A District 2 and undefeated in 5A play this year with a score of 21-14 over the Lawton Ike Eagles.
All right, and once again, that was Kirk Norman and Braden Conover on the call for Carl Albert on the Carl Albert channel of the Oklahoma Sports Network, where Carl Albert finishes their season undefeated in district play, having defeated Lawton Eisenhower 21-14. Happy to be joined again by Carl Albert head coach Mike Dunn. Coach Dunn, what does it mean to you to be undefeated in district?
Oh, well, I mean, I think the biggest deal is the playoff implications, you know, getting to host two more games at home. Anytime you can do that, it's a big deal. You know, district championships, I've seen Carl Albert do it a million different ways, and it doesn't always take a district championship, but it obviously is a big boost as far as your playoff road. You know, the playoffs this year is chocked with good teams. I mean, you just go look at the records of all the teams that have made it. It's pretty impressive. So. You know, you're going to play good teams in the playoffs eventually, no matter what, but it's always good to get a couple at home.
Yeah, not only that, and I know you're going to give all the respect to El Reno, but at the same time, I look at what Bishop, McGinnis, and Guthrie have to do, playing either a Noble or an Ardmore. I mean, that's those teams were great throughout the season. So it just seems like that a one seed works out for you also as far as opponents go most of the time.
Yeah, those top three teams over there in 5A1 did some impressive things this year. All of them are really good offensively. You know, we've seen film on just about everybody out there, and you know, Ardmore, Noble, and Lawton Mac can score from far. They can score at will. It seems like at times. Some of the games they've played in, and yeah, I mean, you're right. Again, looking at the playoffs, looking at the bracket, you know, you look at those teams. I think Noble's 8-2. I think Ardmore's got one loss on the year, and Lawton Mac's got one loss on the year, along with Guthrie, Coweta. There's a lot of teams that are 1 or 2 loss teams and lost to really good teams. There's not a bad loss out there if you look at the top 8 teams in the state, and it's going to be a good run.
So when it becomes clear that you're in the leading track to be a 1 seed, that was definitely the case after you beat Bishop McGuinness, and you got through Piedmont. Do you start following other districts in 5A? Do you ever take time to look at any film, or is it all about the next week's opponent?
Yeah, we pretty much keep it all about the next week's opponent. We had the week off with Western Heights when they forfeited, so there was a little bit of time there to go look at some other stuff. But even that week, we went and watched Lawton Ike and Guthrie, because we knew Woodward. You saw what they did against Piedmont, had a chance to win and got beat in the last minute and a half of that game. So we couldn't overlook Woodward. Definitely couldn't overlook Lawton Ike. We knew that we had more work to do. So we keep a board with all the other districts and their records, and we keep our records in our district, and we keep it on a whiteboard in our office just to keep it all straight. It's fun to watch and kind of fun to see how the districts shake out, and then you get to see towards the those last game or two all the different scenarios for all the districts. Ours was a little different just because ours was set in stone right after the Woodward game. Last week there was still a lot of teams that were playing for seeding and playoff implications. So we do watch as far as records go and things like that, but as far as film goes, we pretty much keep it, who the focus is that week.
So let's talk about the Lawton Eisenhower game. So I'm a little older than you. I remember my first experience ever watching a high school game was back in 1990, that legendary Lawton Eisenhower team that won the mythical national title in high school football. In other words, they ranked number 1, I think, in USA Today.
Yeah.
And they were really good in the early 90s. And since then, they were this kind of a decline. But this team seemed to be one of their best teams in years. And so you're going to go play them. They were alive for a playoff spot. You already have a 1 seed clinched. What was your focus for that game? Was there any? You played a lot of your big guns, but were you able to rest players, or at some point did you choose to rest players?
No, we went ahead and we played to win. We knew that with those guys, it's a really good football team that was playing for a playoff spot. Had to have some things go their way that didn't go, but we knew they were going to come in here fired up to beat us, and we knew that we were going to have to play our best football to get through that one. So we never talked about it and never even thought about sitting anybody. All we talked about all week long was that it's senior night. The way you honor your seniors is by how the way you go out and play, and we definitely wanted to get a win on that night, and we wanted to stay undefeated in district, and really you want to have the momentum rolling into the playoffs. I told our guys after the game, I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want to play a game that was meaningless or against a team that wasn't very good. I mean, we got to have a very good test right there before we go into the ultimate test here in the playoffs. And so, anytime you can get another week of good preparation, kids were fired up for the football game. Kids knew that there was a really good football team coming in here to go knock them off, and our kids, I think they did a really good job of stepping up and getting the job done against a really good team and a really well coached team. There's some veteran coaches on that staff that have done an unbelievable job, and Coach Gibson, got to give your hats off to him, because he's done a really good job with that group.
Absolutely. So now you're taking on El Reno, the Indians, and I'm actually surprised you're not in the same conference with them, because it seems like they play a lot in other sports, Carl Albert and El Reno. So, but you're going to see them now this week at home. What are your thoughts about El Reno?
El Reno is tough. It's one of those places where they're always going to have some tough kids. They're always going to have some good athletes. Chuck Atkinson, their head coach, is doing a great job with them. I think this is the first time they've made the playoffs 4 years in a row. I think I think it's been done maybe twice in school history. So they've done a really good job with this group. They've been banged up. It's kind of been a revolving door for them, and it's a young team. They've got a lot of young guys on the roster, a lot of young guys playing, but they've got some really good players. Number 34, he plays linebacker and running back for them. Kid runs as hard as anybody as I've seen this year. Going to be a lot like the kid we just faced with Lott Nike. He's really good on defense. They've played a few different quarterbacks. Not sure who they're going to settle in with there, so it makes you prepare for a couple different things. But I think you're going to have a team that's going to come in here. They're going to be hungry to win a game. They've knocked off some teams, and they've upset some people here over the last couple of years, and that's what we have to avoid. Like I said, it's a 1 week season. It's a 1 week at a time season at this point, and you got to go into this game knowing that they're a really good team. Our kids are going to be able to see it on film. Their record might not show it, but they had to forfeit 2 games early. They went and played cash, and I think they had like 25 kids on the sidelines. So they've dealt with some adversity, and they found a way to get in the playoffs. So they're going to fight. So it's going to be another big test for us. Glad we're going to do it at home.
That's right. I'll be at home this Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff, 6:30 pregame for Carl Albert football on the Carl Albert channel, the Oklahoma Sports Network. All right, Coach Jones, you guys healthy heading into this game? Pretty healthy?
Yeah, we are. We are. I think we're 100% at this point. Really don't have any of our major key players aren't out. I think we're as healthy as we've been all year. So it's always good. We knew if we could get through some of that stuff early in the season that we'd be able to create some depth, and we did. We've got some young guys playing. We've got 4 or 5 sophomores that are starting for us, and guys that stepped up and never lost their job. So that's always fun to watch. It created some competition in practice, and competition breeds success. So I feel like we're in a good place.
All right. Well, Coach Dunn, thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so Virgil has another handoff to Jason up the middle. Falls blank. He's got some room out there. He's across the goal line. Touchdown, Eagles. Jason Smith untouched from the 5 on in for the touchdown, Ray.
Yep, Lawton's in trouble.
It is big second down. Yates has double back, so a little wildcat action it looks like, Ray. We'll see what happens, and he follows his back and into the end zone. Virgil Yates, touchdown, untouched. Jason Thomas still in, offset to the left. And Yates follows Thomas up the middle, still following. That's a 15, 40, 10-yard line, 5-yard line, in for the score. Very good. Okay, back to pass is Yates. And Yates is going across the middle, deep. He's got a receiver down the 10-yard line, 5, touch. Goldsby takes the knee. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that'll be all she wrote here. It was a win it, you're in it kind of scenario for the Lawton Wolverines, but the Eagles were just too much at the end here.
And once again, that was John Kilty, this time with Ray Matubby on the Dec City channel of the Oklahoma Sports Network, where Dec City goes undefeated in district with a 62-35 victory over Lawton High. And happy again to be joined by Dec City coach Robert Jones. And Coach Jones, what does it mean to you to be undefeated in district?
Well, it's a surreal feeling. You set goals. Like I said last week, you set goals. And then when you accomplish those goals, it's a surreal feeling. And you think back to all the memories and the experiences that we had to get to this moment, starting in the spring. Well, actually starting in the last winter, right after we lost to Bixby. We made a commitment when I was still the strength coach and defensive coordinator. We made a commitment as a team and as a program that we're going to dive into off season, and we're going to give everything we got for the next 8 months until we get back into that position to get back on the field. With the coaching change happening, that also was one of those things we had to overcome. Coach Dunn did a great job at Dec City, and anytime you change head coaches, it's something that you have to get accustomed to, and you have to get used to the changes that come with different head coaches and the philosophies. And we had to bring in a new staff, basically. We kept some people intact, but we had to bring in Coach Williams, Coach Ganther, Coach McGuire, Coach MC. It was a lot of new faces that our kids had to get used to, the way they coach, the way that their personality. So that was one of those things. And then our summer pride, we went after it in summer pride. I can honestly say it was one of our best summer prides we had since I've been here. Our kids were bought in. I really pushed and challenged them in areas that I haven't before. and they really bonded and meshed together as a program well, probably better than I've seen the last 4 years I've been here. Then going into the season, we started off losing to Booker T. Like I said on my other talk show, I said I kind of coached scared that week. It was new to me. That was the first time that I haven't been in a position as an assistant coach or a coordinator. So it was kind of weird that first week, and I was having to get used to everybody's personalities on my staff, how to handle yourself on Friday night. If I can go back and do it differently, I probably would let Virgil throw the ball more. He's shown that he can do it. He might, it's always going to be a chance of an interception there with Virgil just because he hadn't played the position that long. But I coached scared that first game, and I coached different than I had in the past, and I made those necessary adjustments in the Carl Albert week, and then we've been rolling ever since. And the games that we won have been historic just because some of those teams and what they have and what type of programs they have. So to be able to go undefeated in this district with the programs that we have, the Stillwaters, the Deer Creek, the PC North, the Midwest Cities, it's a great feeling, and it's a testament of what kind of program we have and the kids and the players that we have.
Now, you did mention to Ray Matubby, who was filling for Colton that game, that you wanted to get off to a fast start. And the first series, offense and defense actually didn't go very well for you guys. Do you think it's just part of, but you obviously recovered very well. Is it just part of the team's identity where they have to kind of get hit in the mouth a little bit first for them to get going?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to answer that. Like we started well sometimes this year, and then we started bad sometimes. One thing I do like is that we respond either way. When we do have a hot start, we keep it rolling and we get after it like Carl Albert and Stillwater. And then when we have bad starts like versus PC North and Deer Creek and Lawton, we're able to rebound and do what we need to do to get the win. I think a little bit of maturity was involved versus Lawton as far as, I could preach to them that I want to have a fast start, that I want to be able to go out there and be clicking on all cylinders. But part of that, being a teenager, knows that we already clinched district. We already have a home playoff game. We're already the number 1 seed. So part of that immaturity with high school kids is that they think they can just show up and they can just show up with the DC on their helmet, and they're going to be able to plow people over and be able to do things that we need to do. So I think that was part of it a little bit Thursday night, but I love the way the kids responded. They responded well, and we got after them a little bit, and I think we were up 41-7 at halftime. So if you watch the first couple of series and that's all you watch, you would have never thought that the score of the game would have been an indication of that. And the score looked a little bit different, being 62-35. By started out, it was any kids hurt, and I wanted to give some of those younger kids some reps and some experience of playing in a game like that against that type of opponent. So when our starters were in the game and to be able to beat a team like Lawton with playoff aspirations, they were trying to get in the playoffs. To be able to beat them 62-7, I'll take that any day, even though we had a bad start.
So a couple of questions about that game before we move on. Were you able to go through that game unscathed with most of your starters? You're still pretty good health wise, is number one. Number two, are there any players who've gotten playing time the last 2 weeks that have impressed you that didn't work in playing time before? Yeah,
we're healthy, and it's been a blessing. This is probably my only year in coaching that I went the whole year without having a serious injury where it made a player had to miss time. I think it's just a testament, like I keep saying, to our strength and conditioning program. We work out the same all year round. I work out the same like I do in November, January, June. It never changes this. So our bodies are adapt to anything. Our kids are very strong. They're very agile. And I think that's a testament to our strength and conditioning program. We don't change. We don't do in-season lifting, and we don't do off-season. We do lifting year-round. So I think that helps our guys' bodies be able to take that contact and be able to make it through the duration of the season. As far as players really standing out to me, I got to go to a young freshman, and he plays quarterback, but we've been using him at running back as well, as DeMarin Turner. He's a great talent. He had 112 yards versus U.S. Grant and 2 touchdowns. He ran very well versus Lawton, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him continue to progress and see what type of player he's going to be. Him and George will have a quarterback battle in the spring, so we'll see how that works out. And George is doing pretty good as well, our sophomore quarterback. He gets in there, he runs the offense very efficiently. He throws the ball well. So if something was to happen to Virgil, I think we'll be able to still challenge teams and be able to be successful because with our running game and the way he's able to throw the ball. Also, our young defensive lineman, Taven Johnson, he does a good job as well. He has a lot of speed. He's real agile. He reminds me a lot of Darius Hampton. He played well. And then our young offensive line played well too. And I'm pretty sure I'm leaving some kids off, but it was exciting to see some of those young kids get out there. Unfortunately, we've been in some real close games this year that we hadn't had the opportunity to get those kids some playing time. And those kids do a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't get to see as far as like scout team, helping out in individual drills. So to be able to reward them with some playing time was pretty awesome deal.
Yeah, so those are some names that may be called upon in the next couple of weeks, depending on how things go. So when people look at Dec City from the outside, one of the first things that will always stand out will be your defensive line with Hampton, Stone, and Foreman. But they also play tight end. And I want to ask how they do at tight end. And when I go through some of your games, I don't see everything. So I don't see them involved a lot in the passing game as far as receiving the ball goes, but I know they're very involved in the running game. How would you say they perform at tight end?
Well, they've been performing well all year. When we get in those two tight end formations and you get Stone and Jaden and with our offensive line and the size that they have, that's a big offensive line, a lot of big bodies in high school. And anytime you get Division I players playing on either side of the ball, you're going to have success, especially the caliber of players they are, Jaden and Jaden Foreman. They've been doing well. They're blocking well. They're learning their assignments. And they're still a passing threat. We missed Jaden for a wide open touchdown on Thursday. Virgil threw it up to Kanigel. And I think as we progress into the playoffs, the tight end will make up some important catches that will help us get some wins. Those formations are so tough because you can run well in those formations. And those safeties, those corners, those linebackers that are covering those tight ends, whenever we're running the ball well and you're having to come up and tackle Ethan Lawrence, you're having to come up and tackle Jason Smith and Virgil Yates, those tight ends are able to slip past them, recognize, so it's going to be some opportunities in the passing game for those tight ends as we progress into the playoffs. And then as next year, we're going to be able to utilize them even more because they got the experience of playing that position. So I'm excited to see them continue to grow on that side of the ball because they're just as important on that side of the ball and what we can do in those double tight end formations as they are on defense as well.
And one thing I don't want to forget, and I did temporarily forget, but it came to my mind now. Congratulations on winning, is it District 8 Coach of the Year?
Region 8 Coach of the Year.
Region 8, okay. And I don't know what Region 8 means exactly, so if you could tell us about that award and what it means to win it.
Honestly, I grew up in Texas coaching, so I kind of, that's kind of where I got my pedigree and kind of got where I am now. So I'm really kind of confused on that stuff too. Like it's all different to me. I guess it's just what I'm guessing is I asked several people and I get different answers. I think it's just the region of Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore, Edmond, all the surrounding areas in Oklahoma City. I'm guessing that's the Region 8. And it's just a surreal feeling to win that my first year. My first year coaching. And like I said in the paper, and I said on my other talk show, that's not just a single person award. I didn't just win the award myself. Starting with my coordinators, they have a big part of that. They deserve that award. My assistant coaches, my players, the teachers, administrators, and the families and parents and friends, everybody played a part in me winning that award. You don't just win that award by yourself. So I'm grateful to be able to reward them with that because when the job did open up, the Dec City job did open up, the community supported me, ex-players supported me, current players supported me. So to be able to win that award is very humbling, and it's very, I'm excited that I'm able to reward those people that backed me and helped me get this job. So it is the region. I'm guessing it's the Oklahoma City region, including Edmond, Moore, Norman, Yukon, Mustang, all those areas. That's Region 8. So anytime you get an award like that, with that many coaches coaching in this area, it's a surreal feeling and it's pretty humbling. I did win Coach of the Year in track, but I believe that was Coach of the Year in the whole state. So in 2019, I was able to win Coach of the Year in Oklahoma when we won I believe, it was Dec City's first track boys state championship in the history of the school. So it's exciting to be able to come to a school like Dec City and be able to bring a state championship in track and to be able to win Coach of the Year in track and then be able to come and do it in football. So hopefully things continue to run the same way where I win a state championship in football and also win Coach of the Year in that as well. So I'm excited about it. I'm thankful for it, and it's very humbling.
And there was more love going your way with an article in the Oklahoman, which
Yes,
I would read if I wasn't so cheap. You got to pay now to read it. But just talk about what were some of the things that were highlighted that you really appreciate.
Well, first of all, as far as reading that article, I think when you click on social media, it tries to make you pay for it. But if you go to like the regular internet browser, I think it allows you to read it.
Okay, good.
Some of the things we talked about was how we changed the program around. And I don't necessarily want to say we changed it around. Dec City was very successful when Coach Dunn was here, and I was still on staff myself. We had a lot of success. I think COVID played into a lot of things that happened last year. That was just a weird year. You know, we did have a lot of talent. But as far as this year, I think some of the changes that I made and some of the decisions we made as a staff really played a big role. Like Jason Smith did not play running back last year. Ethan Lawrence came from Westmore, and he was a successful receiver at Westmore. So to be able to move those two to tailback was a big decision, and it paid off for us. Also, Virgil Yates. Virgil he played quarterback his freshman year, which is totally different on the varsity level, and he played running back the year previously. So we made some important changes at positions that really helped our team grow and be able to change and flip this season around. And then we learned how to win close games. Here in the past 4 years, we've been in those close games versus teams, versus Carl Albert, versus Booker T, versus Stillwater, but we never got over the hump, and we were never able to win those close games. So we did that this year, and we beat Midwest City at home for the first time in 12 years. So we got over some historic humps and that we hadn't been able to get over in the past. And I think it's a testament to our conditioning and the way we condition, the way we talk about it. We talk about overtime. We talk about winning in the fourth quarter. So our kids understand that. They understand what they need to do. We also talked about the perception of Dec City. Anytime, and I noticed this when I moved back from Oklahoma, when I started coaching at Dec City, because I never noticed it when I was coaching at Carl Albert, living in Midwest City. I never, Choctaw per se, I never really noticed the light that the people were trying to put on Dec City. For whatever reason, anytime you turn on the news or you open up the newspaper, you see a murder in Dec City. You see a robbery in Dec City. So people have this perception that Dec City is full of thugs. It's very violent. It's not like that. Dec City is a great place to live. They have a lot of very great people there. Our kids are very intelligent. Our kids are successful post-high school. They go on to college, not only in athletics, but in academics as well. They go on to have success in college. So I want to paint a different picture of Dec City. I want to paint a picture that Dec City is a place where you can live and be safe. Dec City is a place where you can send your kids to school, high school, and elementary school, and middle school, and not only have success in athletics, but you can have success in academics as well. So that article gave me the opportunity to be able to talk about some of those things, and some of our players talked about it as well. They talked about what they hear their peers saying. Well, we hear there's thugs over here at Dec City, or you guys gangsters. So our kids hear those things, and they see those things in the paper and news. So for them to be able to have an impact and be able to have a chance to help change that perception, that's a great testament to what this program is and what these kids are doing and what the community and administration and staff and the teachers are doing as well. So I'm glad I was able to paint a different picture of Dec City, because it needs to be. It's unfair. Like I said, Dec City's in the same district as Carl Albert. Dec City's in the same district as Midwest City. So we can't praise Carl Albert and say it's such a great institution for academics and athletics. Then you got a school in the same exact school district and paint a different picture of them. So I'm excited that we're able to show people that we can be a school similar to the likes of Carl Albert, similar to the likes of Bixby, where our athletics are great, but our academics are great as well. And our band is great. Our choir is great. We just did Stokoe State. So great things are happening at Dec City, and I'm glad to be able to show that.
Now, as you get ready for Sand Springs, I do remember looking at a few years ago when Midwest City won their district. I think it was 2016, and they hosted the 4th seed Sand Springs. The Sand Springs, I think, beat them by 1 point. So they've I don't know if it's the same coaches, but I know that they've been in that situation before with different players, of course, and pulled the upset. What do you think about Sand Springs coming up this Friday?
Like you said, historically they have came over here and played well in Middale. I remember that year that they beat Millwood City. Millwood City was one of the favorites to win it in 6A, and I believe that was before the split happened. So they're a great program. They're used to coming over here and playing. What I see on film, I see a team that is where we're at, where everybody else is. Booker T, Deer Creek, Choctaw. We're all trying to go catch Bixby. We're all trying to go get that crown, and they're right there with us. They played Booker T 37-32. Obviously, Booker T beat us, so that shows what kind of program they're on. They were able to only lose by 5 points to Booker T. They played Choctaw very close. They lost to Choctaw 41-28, but it was 34-28, and they had the ball when it was 34-28 with a chance to win, and then Choctaw got a strip sack, and they were able to score on that. So they're a very great program. They have very physical kids. Their kids play very physical. They're well coached. Bobby Klink is a former player. He played at OU. The head coach, he played at OU. He played at Tulsa University, and I remember him when I was in high school at Carl Albert. He was playing at Jinx, and he won a couple of state championships. So they're a great program. They play physical. They can run the ball. They can throw very well. Their defensive line is physical up front. They play well on the back end because Coach Clint is a former Division I defensive back like me, myself, and Coach Williams. So they're going to be coached up. They're going to be ready to play in this type of atmosphere because they've been playing in big games all year. They're very similar. Their athletic makeup is very similar to Deer Creek, but they have a couple more athletic kids to me. So it's going to be a tough game. This isn't your typical 1 versus 4 seed. I feel like they are anywhere from a 2 to 3 seed. They could be right there with the 2 and 3 seeds. So this isn't your typical 1-4 seed where we're just going to walk in and win it. We're going to have to come out and play a great game. We're going to have to start fast. We're going to have to not turn the ball over. We're going to have to make plays on both sides of the ball to be able to come out with a victory.
This looks like, even though, this is Northwest Class and he's getting more acclimated to that position, he gets the handoff here and he will score easily. Bryson Spriggs, touchdown Bombers. Still, the best highlight of the year was that touchdown he had against Carl Albert. It's a keeper for Colston. Colston gets to his right. Colston's taken off. Colston's inside the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Bombers. They have Spriggs in now. They will pass it here on 4th down.
He's open.
And pass is caught. Touchdown Bombers. It was a pleasure to watch playing basketball. Hopefully he will this year. Again, it's Seabuck on the catch. I think Colson's figuring out. Seabuck trying to drag his defenders into the end zone. Did he score?
Touchdown.
Yes, touchdown Bombers. Dylan Seabuck. That senior is going to go out in style, and the Bombers now lead 34-0. That's going to do it. Midwest City will end the season 5-5, 3-4 in district with a victory over Northwest Classen 48-0. All right, and for one final time, that was yours truly and Tom Carpenter, as Midwest City Football has ended in the regular season with a 48-0 victory over Northwest Classen. So right now what we're going to do is take a look at some other Midwest City sports, starting with wrestling, and I'm happy to be joined by Midwest City wrestling coach Shane Kerr. All right, Coach Kerr, now that football's over, you're getting some good wrestlers from the football team?
Yeah, we are. Coach Hall and his staff sending me a bunch of his guys over. It's actually had 28 in the room today, expecting some more today. So we're gonna have to manage a good problem to have. We're gonna have to manage the wrestling room full of guys.
Okay, so you guys the rest of your wrestlers have been practicing after school since October. So it's been over a month. How's it look so far, especially compared to other years?
Compared to other years, I have very rarely had more than 9 guys before football. We're steadily having 18 before football got out in preseason wrestling, which is awesome. Some young ones, some old experienced and not experienced, but working real hard, making great strides to head into the season, and I'm very proud of the efforts they're putting forth.
Now, another winter sport we see a lot of basketball that starts in late November. That's when the first game is for varsity. When's the first varsity wrestling start?
December the 3rd against Putnam City West. We're basically about the same schedule as Coach Corky.
Okay, and how how often do you go head to head against another high school as opposed to a wrestling meet or duel or whatever it's called? I'm not totally up to speed with the terminology where there's plenty of high schools involved.
We'll have to get you up to speed. I know you're a basketball guy, but
Yes.
there's another sport going on in the winter that involves the gym, just not the goals.
Right. That's why I'm having you on.
It's awesome. It's a pleasure to be on. We basically have 3 weeks of open tournaments every weekend, starting last weekend of November. So last weekend, this coming up weekend, and the following weekend, we'll have competitions, open tournaments, what we call them, basically our scrimmages. So we'll have 3 weekends of tournaments for our scrimmages before is our preseason.
And when you go head to head against other high school like PC West, what impact do those matches have heading into? Do you guys keep track of district standings, or what impact do they have when it comes to the postseason come later on?
Well, this year is going to be kind of crazy. We are 5A in individual state, and in 6A in district and
Really?
in dual state. So our district is set, and we'll be wrestling 6A schools, 3 other 6A schools for dual state, and we'll be going to 5A for individual state. So as a dual team, we're kind of young. We have some kids that I think can do pretty well in individual state. So I basically set the schedule up for a 5A competition. We'll compete 6A for duals, but kind of depends on which area of the after postseason you're talking about. Duals, we're going to be 6A. Individuals will be 5A.
So what were your thoughts about moving to 5A?
There's great wrestling programs in 5A, just not as many as there is in 6A. It seems to me like 6A is deeper with talent, and 5A is no slouch by no means, but it's got a little drop off on the amount of teams that are high level.
Very good. So the wrestler I'm most familiar with, of course, is your son, Caleb, who was my producer for 2 years for football. And he moved on to something else for football this year, but obviously he'll be wrestling with you one more time. What's it been like now heading into your final year coaching your son?
What's the best way to put it? An incredible pleasure and an incredible pain, because I really have focused the last year, probably sophomore, junior year, to leave it at the wrestling room, not bring it home to the house. Because we're always trying to improve. He's a great young man. I hate to brag on him too much. I don't very often, but he's wrestled his whole life, and he's always been a coach's son. And it's really demanding on him, probably more than it is on me. But I try to leave it at the wrestling room, come home, enjoy life, be a dad. But yet it overlaps. It overlaps being the head wrestling coach, and he sees what kind of effort I put in, and I see what he puts in. And it's really, really enjoyable and can be really, really frustrating all at the same time. But I'm excited and really happy for his senior year.
Yeah, I forgot to ask about some of the biographical stuff. How many years have you been coaching wrestling?
This will be year number 24. My first year was as an assistant, and then I was a 2 years assistant at Midwest City. And this will be my 6th year as a head coach, eighth year at Midwest City.
Okay, and how did you first get to Midwest City?
Started out in Enid for 10 years. I was an assistant there for my first year. Then I was the head coach for 9 years. Went to El Reno for 4 years as a head coach. And then I came here after taking about 2 years off for coaching, and then became assistant here for 2 years, and then started being a head coach after Coach Wilson took the job at Norman.
Gotcha. So when it comes to some of the sports that I'm more familiar with, there can be rule changes every so often, and there can be an emphasis on certain rules being changed. What's it like for wrestling? Is there rule changes every now and then, or does it pretty much stay the same?
There's rule changes every now and then. We're trying to, I think, head towards what the colleges are doing, but we're limited with space. They have different scores on near fall points. They put a lot of emphasis on weighing, how we manage our weight. They really put them on a controlled descent plan to where you have body fat test and hydration test, and you're basically set at a weight. On smaller guys are losing a pound per week. That's all you're allowed to lose. So it kind of takes that off of their back and mine, and kind of puts them on a healthier plan where, you know, Jason Cox, our body fat test guy. He does a great job, and it kind of makes them manage their weight instead of the infamous weight cutting. It's more of weight management, eating healthy, training your body correctly. And that changes somewhat. They're wanting to move weights. Girls wrestling coming in is huge. We're starting a girls program this year. We have some interest in the middle school. Right now we have one girl on our high school team. Coach Cade from football is coming in as our head girls wrestling coach, and hoping to build that up. I'm really excited to see that grow. It's does just as much for the young ladies as it does for the young men. That's probably one of the biggest things in Oklahoma wrestling. We're on year 2 of having girls wrestling in our state tournament, and it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see the benefits they receive, just like young men receive from wrestling.
Yeah, so that's also something I hear a lot, well, in the past about wrestling is making weight or cutting weight, stuff like those terms. Is that one of the least appealing parts of the job, is getting on to wrestlers to maintain a certain weight, or is that just something you're used to?
It's something I'm used to. It's one of those things where the young men step up and handle it usually a lot better than you would think. You know, basketball, you can go eat a cheeseburger, go play basketball. It doesn't matter what you weigh. Football, they want them to weigh heavier most of the time. I mean, Coach Hall does a great job with those guys, and Coach Corky does too, but they don't have that restriction. If he has a guy in a line that's small and he's got to play him, he's forced to play him, it is what it is. I can't put a kid in at 106 that weighs 113 or whatever his body fat test comes out to be. If it lets him go to 7% body fat, which rarely do they ever get that. I think usually we're probably hitting around, our lowest ones are probably 8 to 10%. And that's a pretty much lean wrestler, training well, eating right, putting good fluids into his body. And once they take that over, they kind of buy into it. It's kind of easy for me. I mean, they understand it. They understand what they got to do when they got to do it, and they perform better when they do it correctly. And it takes a while. Once they get into high school, it's kind of when they probably start managing it, because in middle school, it's not really regulated that much. And it's just like any other sport, the better you take care of yourself, the better you perform, I tell them the old analogy of what you put into your car gas wise, how does it perform? Race cars, real expensive fuel, and they perform better. So once they buy into it and figure out what they're doing with their bodies and how they perform, a lot of them do a pretty good job of it. You still have the ones that love to eat candy and stuff like that. My son being one of them, he's known for some peanut M&Ms after a tournament, but he's really good about getting back on track.
Well, I've had a few meals with him, so I can believe you on that. So talk about some of your stud wrestlers from last year that you have expectations for. I remember, okay, so last week I spoke with Jason Brown Rosado for football, and I asked him how does, when he wrestles, does he go up against Caleb much in practice? He said yes, and he usually wins. I don't know how true that is, but that's what he told me.
Didn't hold anything back, did he?
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
but I put him on the spot. I think he was just being honest with what he believed.
Right. He's a great wrestler. Very, very talented. Kind of two different wrestling styles. But yes, Jason's pretty tough. He can probably beat Caleb every once in a while. Hopefully Caleb can get some headway back. I want them both to do well. So in the wrestling room, they can scrap and get after it like a couple of wild dogs. And then once we lace them up against someone else, it just benefits them. I love how they compete in the room. Jason might be a little bigger than Caleb this year. I think we're looking at 132 for Jason, and Caleb's going to be wrestling 120. So he might be a little bigger than what Caleb can handle.
Sure. And any other studs you got from last year that you think could go far?
Those two returning two-time state qualifiers. What's crazy is when you go from 6A, two-time state qualifiers, they're looking at both trying to win it this year. Probably at best, I mean, they probably would tell you they try to win it in 6A, but to be honest, we're probably looking at placing at 6A. At 5A, I think they both have a legitimate shot at getting a title. We've got Trevor Hand, Coach Hand's son, coming in as a sophomore, probably going to be going at 195 this year. He wrestled 220 last year, and he looks stronger and bigger, but he's leaner. I think he's been training pretty well as far as his diet and his lifting. His first day in the room was today. Got out there and got after it real well with the guys that's been in there for a while. He's not in wrestling shape, but he definitely got some high expectations for Trevor Hand at 195. Got a new Hayden in the room, Ethan Hayden last year, real good wrestler for me. His little brother, Noah Hayden, little brother, but bigger brother, is probably going to be around I don't know what we're going to do with him yet. We might go 182 or we might bump up to 220. Him and Trevor will be battling for that 195 spot. But going to fill the lineup this year. So far, we've got a guy at every weight. Our heavyweights, Austin Poe, he's been with me since 6th grade. Really training hard, looking good. Darian Dennis is one of my guys. I've got about 6 guys and 3 weights to hold. So Darian Dennis had a really good year last year, really solid, very athletic wrestler. Wyland Hargrove is in that spot around the 152, 160, 170 mark. And who am I missing? I got some new freshmen. A young man named Antoine Webb. Yeah, I've got 2 wrestlers messed up. Antoine Webb's a freshman that wrestles with Caleb. He'll probably going to be wrestling 113 for us. Very aggressive, very talented young man. Just a freshman, but definitely getting some takedowns in on Caleb, a 2-time returning state qualifier. So that shows promise, taking down a guy up a weight and pretty good wrestler. That's a senior. Got Ramaj Smith is probably going to be wrestling 26 for us this year. He's a little small for 26, but showing lots of talent. Both of them got 3rd at the tournament at Lawton MacArthur this last weekend, and lots of athletic ability, very strong. Both of them very strong for their weight, and pretty excited about having a full lineup, not giving up forfeits. Everything works out. Everybody gets to where they need to be weight-wise, and everybody stays healthy. That's huge. If you can fill all 14 weights, that's not giving up any points. I mean, when you give up 12 points because you don't have a guy there, it just kind of is a little demoralizing on the team and the coaching staff.
Very good. And so when you host a wrestling day, is it called a duel or match, or what's it called?
We got a duel against another team. Yeah. Us and Putnam City West will be a duel against them.
Okay. How many times are you hosting this year?
Right off the top of my head, I want to say 5. Got 5 home duels. We host an open tournament on November 20th.
All right. And so just to let people watching know, like, when they can come out and watch, are there a couple of big duels you want to promote right now? Maybe like the first 2 or something like that.
Carl Albert, we're wrestling them at home this year. It's senior night. They've got a great squad. Coach Hodges has done a great job with that program. And, Carl Albert, Midwest City, that's going to be a tough duel. Our ending duel is going to be Dell City. Coach Davis took that program over a couple years ago, and they're a tradition-rich school with wrestling. Both those schools will be awesome duels, I hope. Hope to get more people out. We're trying to get some fog machines. We're going to have some walk-up songs, kind of get more into the fake style wrestling to where you get more crowd pump friendly style. That's what people like to see. The kids like it. They like to hear their names announced, like, and now coming to the ring or coming to the mat, that type of stuff, which is fine with me. If the kids like it, I like it. I get hyped, get some kids out there, give away some T-shirts, and get everybody into wrestling.
All right, very good. Well, Coach Kerr, thank you so much. We hope we can keep tabs on what's going on with you guys and get and see a couple of those duels. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
And once again, I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. And remember, this Friday night, playoff football, Carl Albert hosting El Reno. That game will kick off at 7, pregame at 6:30. In Del City, their kickoff has been moved to 7:30 as they host Sand Springs, pregame at 7. I look forward to being involved with that. And be sure to tune in next week for Week 12 of the Mid-Del Sports Report.
Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the Oklahoma Sports Network's consent is prohibited. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be used without express written consent.